husband Gordon Moss, and probably about a year and a half ago we made the decision to purchase a Greenline 39. Finally started the European pickup in July in Portorož. We have enjoyed almost annually having a European sailing holiday. We love the experience of being there in the summer months. So we obviously bought it as an Australian registered boat with a eventual view to repatriate it here to Australia. But it was certainly a huge appeal rather than think about going to an apartment or a static holiday in Europe to essentially think about a floating mobile holiday home. So the more we looked into it and talked to Peter and Luca and various people, understanding that we had this option to use the boat for up to 18 months within European waters, and that you could potentially reset that 18 months multiple times. It gives you so much flexibility to legitimately keep it there and make use of it, and at your own leisure, then think about if you want to bring it back here. There's so many different waterways that we could do in future years, and the great thing about the Greenline is we could even think about doing like the inland waterway system, and that could be a whole other bunch of years just going through the rivers and canal system, which we may well do. And I think that's a great sales feature of the Greenline, that you don't have to worry about a big mast and think about that as a European option as well. There's obviously a little bit involved in terms of the process and the paperwork and the protocols, but we certainly got to a good position with Eyachts and Greenline to understand that it was a very doable option for us.
Well, I think the handover process was good. We were fortunate. Peter had also planned to have some time off over there as well. So rather than the handover being a very concentrated handover in a short period of time, let's say half a day or a day, Peter was with us for probably 3 days, I suppose, maybe plus or minus. And we were able to have little chunks of handover time with him. So we eventually went through the full handover process, but we were able to take it in over a longer period of time. I think that was an advantage. And we're also lucky that Vladimir was down and around the port as well. And we spent a few hours with Vladimir, and he's obviously very experienced. Got some good tips from Vladimir as well. Yeah, that was really good. No complaints there at all.
No, it's good. We hadn't realised Peter would make himself personally available, so that was great that he flew over there. It's good to get that hands-on sail experience actually manoeuvring experience with him. Even though Gordon's had a lot of yachty experience, it's still good. We did a few drills on berthing, but we certainly felt we had a really good grounding in everything from that start. Portorož, the marina was great, really good facilities, couple of chandleries, lovely restaurant, good shower facilities. Obviously there's a refueling berth, very good marina staff, good office there. We could get stuff sort of couriered and printed, and pretty good access to the town. We really like the town of Portorož. We've been there before. We could sort of do quite a bit of provisioning there because we were trying to deck the boat out, So we did a bit of provisioning there, and it's a very handy spot actually. The boat is back in its sort of home base at Portorož. We winterized it there, so it's actually in a hangar. With the first sort of season on the water, if there's any warranty issues, we know they understand electric boat management, battery management, which maybe not every marina would. So it gives us quite a lot of peace of mind that it's there over these months. Yeah.
Well, I think it's more the Greenline people that are there rather than the marina staff. Well, we basically chartered a course down to Kotor and back. Most of that coast is the Croatian coast, and there's many stops that you can do along the way. I suppose if you were sailing it, you'd be looking at trying to maybe do about 20 or 25 nautical miles between stops. And it's so easy to do when you're sailing down the Croatian coast. And we weren't in a hurry to get to Montenegro. We had best part of a month and a half to get there and a month and a half to get back. We cruised probably on average about 20 nautical miles a day, maybe about 5 hours on the water, and leaving at say 10 in the morning and getting into port at 3 p.m. is about right. You don't want to be much later than that, or you could miss out on a berth, particularly in summer. Most days we just cruised on electric. We'd find a marina or a harbour berth with power. We'd plug it in, it would get a full charge overnight, and we'd take off the next day. A couple of days we might have had 35 or 40 nautical mile cruise in front of us, in which case we'd need to use the diesel. Worked out pretty quickly that if you cruised on diesel at about 6.5, 7 knots, you'd fully charge the batteries in about an hour, hour and a half. Then you can go back to electric if you so desired.
So I think we worked out in 3 months of sailing, we only used about 40 engine hours in total. Part of the enjoyment of being on the water is to have the odd night on anchor. So we did probably once a week, we would have a night on anchor as well if we saw a really lovely bay. So we weren't obsessed with just, oh, we've got to charge the boat. Gordon said, we could use the diesel generation to fire the batteries up again. We felt like it didn't constrain us, and we were still able to kind of get both of those experiences of the marinas and the beautiful towns, as well as the gorgeous secluded bays.
I mean, the first thing we did, we specified an additional battery. We've got 2 large lithium batteries. I must admit, I found it difficult to work out what sort of range that was going to give me. And I think the reason for that is that range is very dependent on the speed that you travel. Once you go much over about 5 knots, the amount of power that's drawn is disproportional to the additional speed that you're going. At the speed that we were cruising, which is, let's say, average about 4.5 or 5 knots, we got about 20 to 25 nautical miles of cruising range. One of the things I really liked about the Greenline was that you get really good feedback from instruments, whether on diesel or electric, as to how you're using your power and the efficiency of the drive. Very quickly, if you're interested in doing that, you can work out the most efficient speeds to run the boat and charge the batteries. That was, I think, one of the things that I quite appreciated in my desire to drive on electric power as much as possible was the instantaneous feedback that you get from the instruments while you're moving. We headed south straight away, down into Croatia, went out to international waters, and then into the first Croatian port at Umag. Made our way down the coast. We got to Pula. We had some visitors from Switzerland join us. And then we headed down to Zadar. Had some more friends join us. Did an out and back around the Zadarian Islands. Then headed down to Split. Picked up a couple of friends. Fiona left us there. So there was myself and 2 crew. And that crew sailed down to Dubrovnik via many of the islands you might expect. Korčula and Mljet. Ston, not an island, it's on the mainland. They left us there. A friend of mine from the UK flew in, then sailed it down to Montenegro, the Bay of Kotor. And his family then flew into Montenegro, and myself and his family are on the boat for 5 or 6 days, just exploring that bay. And they left, and then I had a couple of weeks there on my own until Fiona returned. Then we headed north. Sort of backtracked to a certain degree. Some of the ports were different. We had guests on the way back as well, and a lot of those guests, they might have been their first time to Croatia and wanted to see some of the more popular spots.
We had sailed in Croatia a few times. I think this might have been our fourth visit. So we knew particularly that Split to Dubrovnik route quite well. Yeah, some of the highlights were places that we hadn't been to before, places like Primosten on the mainland, and the island of Rab and the town of Rab for me was a Just really beautiful place and not quite as busy as the well-known islands. Piran in Slovenia, really gorgeous little place. So that was, spent a few days there.
We're not going to go in summer. We're going to head over in mid-April, and the idea is to sail it probably down the Italian coast and then head across to either Albania or Corfu. The advantage of going to Albania is that means we take it out of Europe, so the 18 months tax-free resets, sail it through the Corinth Canal and then around the Peloponnese and then up through the Ionian Islands and Kefalonia, and then leave it in Lefkada in Greece. We'll return back here for July and August, and then return in September and sail it back to Portorož.
We were a little bit undecided. I mean, I'd always envisaged eventually having it here in Hvar, but whether that's 2 years, 3 years, I'm not sure. I mean, assuming the rule continues to be that it's possible to kind of keep resetting this European stay period, then I think we'll take advantage of that in the next sort of couple of years at least. And it depends, if we think we might want to do the inland waterway option, then we might try for a third year there. We don't really have a defined plan. Have in principle agreed with Eyachts that they will support us as and when we need to export it to Australia, but a bit TBA at the moment in terms of time frame.
We were introduced to Peter early on. We'd actually visited Greenline July 23. We weren't aware of Peter and the operation here in those days. And Luca introduced us to Peter quite early on in that process. And yeah, Peter was very helpful and he presented a pretty good option for us. Got to know his operation pretty well, made a decision not long after that. Things went very smoothly. Well, Luca and Peter said the boat would be delivered in early July, and it was delivered in early July, basically right on time.
Yeah.
So it was a very good experience, very seamless.
It was great to have Sue. She was very good with all of the administration and the accounting and the documentation, and very, very responsive. We needed that sort of resource as well. So I think it was a good kind of tight team there. We would say it's been a fabulous experience for us. The boat and the experience, I think, have lived up to our expectations and exceeded them. There is a certain amount of due diligence that you have to do, obviously on the boat and the pickup and the European rules and understanding the Schengen visa situation. But all of that is very, surmountable. If you're not big on, the winter here in Australia, it just gives you that great flexibility to enjoy warm climates and interesting cultures all year round. So it's been a very happy experience for us. I feel very well supported by both Greenline and Eyachts in the process. Just to add as well, for us, from years of sailing, being yachties, and all of our holidays have been on sort of charter yachts, which, depending what time of the season you can get them, can be varying degrees of tired. For us, Greenline felt like a bit of luxury. It felt so comfortable, and it just was for us, a kind of real step up in terms of the level of comfort that we could enjoy. We'd recommend it as an experience for sure. Yeah.